In my previous life, my coworker Sarah sent me a video of her baby. Out of kindness, I told her that I thought the child might have a serious illness, but she called me crazy. Later, when her child passed away, Sarah became convinced I had cursed him to death. She even incited her wicked mother-in-law to push me from a high-rise building. When I opened my eyes, I was reborn. Back to the day Sarah sent me that video of her baby. She asked me, "Isn't my baby so adorable?" I simply smiled, saying nothing at all. Without missing a beat, I introduced her to my so-called best friend. On my screen, Sarah had sent me a video of her baby, asking, "Isn't my baby adorable?" In the video, I could see the child's eyes kept flickering, and he wouldn't stop shaking his head. In my previous life, out of kindness, I told her that I thought the child might have a serious illness, but she called me crazy. Later, when her child passed away, Sarah became convinced I had cursed him to death. She even incited her wicked mother-in-law to push me from a high-rise building. After I died, Sarah came strutting over to my grave, looking smug. "You know I've never liked you. Every single day my husband beats and screams at me, and I have to put up with his mother. But you have a higher position and a husband who's respectable and gentle. Why do you deserve it all? The doctor told me 2 months ago that my baby wasn't going to make it, but I couldn't tell my family. If I did, my mother-in-law would blame me for not giving her a healthy grandson, and she would have her son beat me to death. So I had to make you take the blame. You were so useless. You couldn't even fight off an old hag. But still, the pointlessness of your death was a great relief to me. Just thinking about her smug face now, my blood boiled. So this time around, when Sarah sent me the same baby video, I simply replied with a smiley emoji and said not a word. When her first ploy failed and she saw we were alone in the office, Sarah approached me with a sly smile. "Helen, your mom is a pediatrician, right? You must know a lot about this. If there's something wrong with my boy, you need to tell me. If you keep quiet and he's diagnosed with something, I'll say you stood by and let him suffer, that you were the one who delayed his treatment." If I gave her a warning, she'd say I had cursed the child to death. If I didn't, she would claim I had delayed his treatment. Her shamelessness made my stomach churn. She had set a very tight trap for me, but she was in for a disappointment. My computer suddenly rang out with our boss's furious voice. "Sarah, what is this nonsense? Can't you see we're in a meeting?" Sarah froze. I hadn't made a sound, and she had no idea I was listening in on the meeting. I had just unmuted my microphone, allowing her threats to be heard clearly by everyone in the meeting. Estella Warren, our boss with a fiery temper, cut in. "Sarah, are you insane? Helen is not a doctor. If you and your child are sick, then hurry to a hospital and get treatment. What is wrong with you?" Afraid to upset the hot-tempered Estella, Sarah quickly forced a smile. "I was just making a joke," I said soberly. "Health is not something to joke about. If you're concerned about your child, take him for a checkup as soon as possible. There is no time like the present. Estella, perhaps you can give Sarah a day off." Estella didn't hesitate. "Granted. Sarah, you will take your child for a checkup tomorrow. If you don't go, and your child is found to have a problem later, I will say you deliberately delayed his treatment." I feigned a laugh. "The boss's orders are on the meeting recording, Sarah. Don't treat your child's health so lightly." Sarah's face was a mask of anger and shame as she furiously pounded on her keyboard, venting her frustration. Watching Sarah, I felt both annoyed and amused. Just then, a message popped up on my screen. It was a message from my so-called best friend, Jessica Harper. "Jessica, Helen, I've always considered you my closest friend. Now I've just lost my job, and am in such a difficult situation, yet you keep dragging your feet and refuse to find me a position. Is this how you repay my sincere friendship? Jessica, Dan says you've always been jealous that I was more popular in school, and that's why you won't help me. I never wanted to believe him, but it looks like he was right all along." The second message was deleted seconds later, leaving me with no evidence if I wanted to confront my husband, Daniel Evans. Jessica was merely my high school classmate, yet she constantly paraded herself as my best friend. She always invited herself into my car when our commutes coincided, playing the best friend card. "We're best friends, aren't we? You can't say no," she'd say. Before I could think of an excuse, my husband Daniel agreed on my behalf. I often worked overtime, so Daniel would drive her home alone after work. She even brought her own seat cushion and backrest, making the passenger seat seem like her exclusive spot. I was upset, but Daniel just brushed it off. "It's just a small thing. Why get so worked up? You're being too petty." He worked at a research institute, had little experience in real life, and was never good at handling things tactfully, so his attitude didn't bother me much. Thinking back now, I hate how slow I was in my past life, letting those terrible people take advantage of me freely. It was only right before I died that I finally learned the truth. Dan, we're so lucky. Now that Helen has been killed by that crazy old hag, no one will ever find out that we plotted to poison her. Sarah's mother-in-law was tiny and frail. She kept saying she'd kill me to avenge her precious grandson, but I never took her threats seriously. But that day, I was suddenly struck by a sharp pain in my stomach, and my whole body went limp, leaving me so weak that she easily pushed me from the building. It turned out that Daniel and Jessica had teamed up to poison me, leaving me utterly helpless. At my funeral, Jessica acted extremely grief-stricken, even fainting several times from crying. Estella had always valued me. Seeing Jessica so grief-stricken, Estella made an exception and gave her a position out of consideration for me. Estella also helped Jessica a lot in her work, becoming her career benefactor. Jessica then took over everything that was mine effortlessly. This time, I was handing Sarah's dirty blame straight to Jessica. Let the two of them tear each other apart. I would just watch. With that in mind, I shot Jessica a quick message. "Chill out. I've got everything sorted. You start work the day after tomorrow." The next day, as soon as Sarah walked into the office, she shot me a cold glare. But before she could start, Jessica waltzed into the office. "Good morning, everyone. Last night, Jessica came to my house, saying she didn't want new colleagues to look down on her, and begged me to lend her some designer outfits to fit in. So I lent her a full set of logo-branded outfits, and also gave her many unopened luxury cosmetics. So in everyone's eyes now, she was wearing all designer clothes and had perfect makeup, making everyone else look plain in comparison. I stepped in and made the introduction. "This is our new colleague, Jessica Harper. I hope you all get along well with her." I had arranged for Jessica's desk to be next to Sarah's. Jessica placed her designer bag worth thousands of dollars in front of Sarah, and then began handing out the cosmetics I had gifted her as a gift to each colleague. Sarah was so captivated by the designer bag that she forgot all about antagonizing me. Her eyes were fixed on the flashy logo. Jessica handed her a lipstick. "I hope we can work together well in the future." The brand was Sarah's favorite before she got married, but after her scoundrel of a useless husband and greedy mother-in-law came into her life, she had not used it for a long time. I had deliberately given Jessica this brand of lipstick to sting Sarah's heart. As expected, Sarah snapped. "The case looks different from the authentic ones I've bought. Are you sure this isn't a fake, Jessica?" Jessica gave an innocent smile. "This is the new packaging for this year. You probably haven't bought anything from this brand in a long time, have you, Sarah? It's only natural that you wouldn't recognize it." Sarah's face went pale with rage. Only then did I intervene, playing the peacemaker. "All right, everyone, let's get back to work." After Jessica sat down, she first pulled out a mirror to touch up her makeup, then took out a set of press-on nails to fuss with. She didn't notice the cold, menacing look Sarah was giving her. Perfect. I had successfully redirected the hatred away from myself. When I arrived home that night, Daniel asked in a flat tone, "I hear you've finally gotten Jessica a job? You're an old hand in the workplace, but she's different. She's naive and has no experience. You should have helped her sooner. Why did you wait so long?" His words were so inane that they made my hands tremble with rage. In the past, I never bothered with his unpleasant words, always assuming he was simply dense and had no emotional intelligence. Yet in my previous life, he was the one who took the deadly poison from the research institute and put it in my coffee with his own hands. My body wasn't even cold yet, and he impatiently brought Jessica home, exposing their depravity for all to see. My mother, brokenhearted, was admitted to the ICU, where the medical bills mounted daily. Yet he refused to use a single penny of my considerable inheritance to save her, watching impassively as she passed away. The thought of it all set my heart ablaze with hatred. Selfish, cold-blooded, greedy, and lecherous. This was his true nature. In my last life, to allow him to focus on his work, I even had the study professionally soundproofed. Instead, he would lock the door every day and trade flirty messages with Jessica, plotting how to harm me. In this life, I installed a full surveillance system in the study. Sure enough, I saw the truth that had been hidden from me in my past life. In the surveillance footage, Jessica was on a video call with Daniel, cooing affectionately. It was my first day at work, and all my colleagues said I was beautiful, which made Helen unhappy. She had her subordinate, Sarah, bully me nonstop. Dan, you have to help me, please. Daniel's voice was full of doting affection. All right, baby, how do you want to get back at them? Jessica's eyes sparkled with scheming. Remember how you used a nerve anesthetic to knock her out so we could go on dates? There's an important meeting the day after tomorrow. Can you get me some more of that drug? I'll make her a fool in front of everyone. It'd be best if she got fired. A storm of shock and rage erupted inside me. I had indeed been frequently drowsy, dizzy, and weak lately, and had assumed it was just exhaustion. It turned out they were the ones who had done this to me. My ears were ringing with anger as my trembling hands grabbed the phone, ready to call the police. But I quickly calmed down. Their crime was still minor, and even if they were caught, they would not receive much punishment. Thinking of my tragic death in my previous life and the look of despair in my mother's eyes before she died, my blood ran cold. I sucked in a couple of deep breaths. I absolutely would not let them off so easily. I would watch them descend, step by step, into an abyss from which they could never return. On the day of the meeting, Jessica, just as expected, walked into the conference room with more than a dozen cups of coffee. She announced it was her treat and personally handed one to me. I smiled as I took it, and when Sarah wasn't looking, I swapped my cup with the one on her desk. I watched as she came back and drank all the coffee. Halfway through the meeting, it was Sarah's turn to present. She tried to stand but stumbled and fell back into her chair, looking as if she were drunk. When Estella asked what was wrong, Sarah, in a daze, slammed her hand on the table and glared at her. Estella, you slept with your superiors to get to the top, and now you're pretending to be so virtuous. Gasps and whispers rippled across the room. While a small amount of nerve anesthetic can cause a loss of composure, her public outburst was far more shocking than I expected. Then Sarah swung her rage at me. And you, Helen, you can't have children. You're just a hen that won't lay an egg. Haha, your husband married a useless hen. Why keep you around? He might as well just butcher you. Jessica, thinking she had mixed up the coffees herself, turned deathly pale and tried to sneak out. As soon as she moved, she caught Sarah's attention. Amidst the gasps of the crowd, Sarah suddenly grabbed Jessica's hair. You little brat. What are you to me? You dare to laugh at me for not knowing a new lipstick? Today I'll give you a real new look. She grabbed a red marker pen and scribbled all over Jessica's face. Jessica cried out, Sarah, let go of me. Helen, are you dead? Why don't you save me? I then pretended to come to my senses and pulled Sarah away from behind. I looked at Jessica again. Her face was covered with red marker, looking distorted and monstrous like a demon. She rubbed her face vigorously, but the oily ink was stubborn. Her skin was nearly rubbed raw, but the marks did not budge. Sarah, having used up all her strength, slumped onto the table but still kept cursing all the colleagues around her. Her words were extremely crude and vulgar. The faces around the conference table went from stunned to mortified, especially our boss Estella, whose face was livid. No one could have imagined that Sarah, who usually acted like a good person, was so two-faced. A few hours later, when Sarah woke up, she rushed into Estella's office and cried, saying that it was all nonsense from being drunk, and she didn't mean any of it. I also put in a good word for her. The current project is a heavy task, and Sarah is a veteran employee. The project will definitely be affected without her. Estella, please give her another chance. Sarah sobbed until her voice was hoarse. Estella, you know my child is still young, and there are many expenses at home. I can't lose this job. If I lose my job, my husband will beat me to death. After my repeated persuasion, Estella weighed her options and finally relented. Sarah wouldn't be fired, at least for now, but from then on, Sarah was marked with a big red cross in Estella's mind, and any chance of a promotion was gone forever. Once we were out of the office, I asked Sarah helplessly, you've always been able to handle your liquor, and you've never had a slip up before. How could you get so drunk during work hours? Sarah's face contorted with remorse. What do you mean? I've always known my limits when drinking. Today I just, she kept trailing off until her eyes suddenly snapped wide. Wait, before the meeting, I had that coffee Jessica brought.